What is up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. It's time for episode 30 of Tigers franchise, and we're still basking in the glow of a World Series victory. We took out the Reds in 6. This is going to be a little bit of a review, celebrate kind of episode. Probably a shorter one. I've said that before and put out, 90 minutes. But I think what we're going to do is really review the team, check out how everyone did in the playoffs, in the regular season, advance to the offseason, check out all our emails there, see what's going on, kind of get the lay of the land on, how much more interested are the fans, what kind of money are we working with, who are we losing, and then that will kind of get us as a springboard into the offseason. I believe I kind of skipped this episode last season, but I do like to do it. I think it's a fun reset. I don't expect everyone to remember everything all the time about how players did, and so it's fun to kind of review after a certain point. And this is that point. So let's get into it. Of course, our road to the World Series started in the second round thanks to a first round bye with the number 2 seed. We then got the Mariners, who we played in a hard-fought 6-game series and took them out 4-2. That would become a theme because then we played the Rays in a hard-fought 6-game series, winning 4-2. And wouldn't you know it, we really, really got used to that. So we played the Reds, and say it with me, in a hard-fought series that we ended up winning 4-2. So, none of them went 7, but it always felt like, hey, this could go the wrong way at any moment. We had to have some huge moments late in games, some solid performances from unexpected places, some superstar performances from expected places. It all came together, and we're champions. But now we got to see if we can keep it going, right? Because we kind of thought we were ahead of schedule when we made the playoffs, the first couple of years. And now here we are with our first title. I still feel like I was probably thinking more of like 27, 28 that we're bringing home a title. But once you get in the dance, you never really know, and things really worked for us. So let's get into how players did during the playoffs. We'll go game type, postseason, and we'll sort by plate appearances. Up at the top there, you had Riley Green, and you really see that our studs, who ended up by the end of the playoffs being our top 3 batters, Green, Torkelson, and Mendoza, we really entrusted them, and they came through. Don't forget, if you're looking at the screen, the WAR total here is the season WAR total. They did not put a 4 or 5 wins in the playoffs. That would be really impressive. But they were great. And so Riley, with 81 plate appearances, was the team leader there, and he put up an excellent run. 4 homers, 9 ribbies, 292, 370, 528. That's good for a 144 WRC plus. I'm not going to read everyone's stats across the board. That'll just be a ton of numbers, but he was wonderful. Excellent hitter, and of course playing strong defense in right field as well. Riley Green is a leader and a stud. Spencer Torkelson, he has become our best player, I think, or at least our best hitter. As a first baseman, it's harder necessarily to ascend to being the overall best player if you're not bringing a ton defensively, because even if you're a great defensive first baseman, you're just not going to have as much value as if you're great up the middle or even in a corner outfield spot or over at third base. It's just, it's the lowest on the defensive spectrum. You can only do so much defensively to improve your WAR at first base. But his bat had an excellent regular season, which we'll get into in a moment, and then he kept it going in October. 80 plate appearances, 8 bombs, 16 ribbies. Those were both team highs. That won't surprise anybody. His 151 WRC plus was not the high. We're going to get to who led there in a moment. That is probably the biggest surprise of the playoffs, but he was up there and he was consistent across the series, whereas the guy who ended up winning it was a bit more sporadic. And like I said, we'll get to that in a moment. Let's go series by series real quick for Torque here, because we can see, I guess the first series wasn't his best. He hit 160 with a 192 WRC plus, but you'll know I tell you not to get too hung up on the rate stats in an individual series. What were his contributions? And while he only had 4 hits, 2 of them left the field, and he had 6 ribbies. So again, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that a 192 OBP is awesome or that a 160 average is, but it was impact. So Torque was delivering in that first series, even though it wasn't every time up. Then in the Tampa Bay series, it got better. Still only a 227 average, so with 5 hits, but 2 of them left the yard. Those were his only 2 ribbies, but he had a 370 OBP, so he was on base a lot more in this one. He wasn't making as much impact with runs batted in, but he was on base consistently for other guys to drive him in. And then in the World Series, Torkelson had 4 homers and went 9 for 26, 346, 370, 846. He was the World Series MVP. So he kind of got better as it went, but he contributed throughout. Spencer Torkelson, he's our stud. Sergio Mendoza, the breakout player of the year, and we'll get into the regular season stats in a moment and give him more love, but what a season. And he did not miss a beat in October. 4 bombs for him, 12 ribbies, 3 steals as well, team high. We don't run a ton. We only had 5 total, so he had 3 of our 5. 250, 311, 515. Just excellent work, and of course, plays a strong center field, which is where he was throughout the playoffs. Evan Carter, so all 3 of our outfielders were among our top 4 plate appearance getters or accumulators, I guess. 74 for Mendoza, 73 for Carter after the 81 from Green. And Carter, you know, he had an okay playoff. 95 WRC plus. He had his contributions, 2 homers, 6 ribbies. The disappointing part, though, is a 6% walk rate. For me, he's the kind of guy that, you know, if he has a 30% K rate like he did, and, you know, maybe the average isn't going crazy, then the OBP is supposed to kind of be that protector with a 65i, and it just wasn't there. In fact, even in the regular season, an 8% walk rate. He really hasn't gotten into his walks there that are supposed to stabilize his value. So that's a little bit of a bummer, but hey, we won the World Series. We're not here to dog guys out that didn't exactly pop off. I'm just saying that his shape will usually present a higher floor than it did this year, even though we only had a 315 OBP from him in the playoffs. Evan Carter. O'Neill Cruz is next. He and Dylan Dingler each had 68 plate appearances in 18 games. 6 ribbies for both. 3 homers for O'Neill, 1 for Dingler. They were both contributing. Again, 6 ribbies across the 18 games. 4 homers total. That's not bad. They weren't great. We don't have huge expectations for either offensively. Higher for Cruz for sure, but he's a 5'6" type batter, as opposed to Dingler is about bottom of the order catcher. Play great defense. If you give anything offensively, it's gravy. And he had started off better and then kind of got cold. But all told, like I said, a homer and 6 ribbies from your catcher, that's a great defender. I'll take it. I really will. Willy Adames, he had a terrible playoff. The less said, the better. His home run total matched his WRC plus total, which that's just never good, because the only real way to do it is 0 or 1, it would seem. Because he hit 1 homer and he had a 1 WRC plus. Because if you hit a ton of homers, you know, the WRC plus would outpace. So even if you hit 10, you know, it couldn't be a 10 WRC plus. So yeah, that's just not great. And we'll move out. We'll move on from Adames. He missed some games. We were trying to give him some breathers. He just didn't have it. But he did play great defense. You know, there were no errors. There's nothing like that. He wasn't taking his bad hitting into the field with him. Jace Young, 65 plate appearances for him, 295, 323, 393. Not bad. Just under a league average type guy with a 92 WRC plus. Is that league average like for the playoffs, or is it still compared to the overall league? I'm not entirely sure there. But then the legend, what a crazy, not just October, but season run with us for Deiry Carrasco. 63 plate appearances was the lowest amongst our regular starters. You know, Arias, Orelvis, and Parker Meadows had 12, 12, and 5 respectively. But amongst our everyday starters, Deiry Carrasco with just 63 plate appearances. And wouldn't you know, he led the team in WRC plus at 160. What a monster. He came through, y'all. We were dogging him out in the early rounds. Like, oh, more of the same from the regular season, which is to say nothing. And then he finally turned it on, and he became a force. As you can see, he ends the season on a hot streak there with the Flame, which is amazing. 4 homers, 12 ribbies, 316 average, 381 OBP, 579 slug, good for a 160 WRC plus. Well done, Deiry Carrasco. Give him a little round of applause there. Let's go through his series by series, because it is fascinating to me. Start in the wild card round, or excuse me, in the divisional series round, of course, because we didn't play the wild card. And he goes 3 for 15 with a homer and 3 ribbies. And I want to say, don't quote me, I'm not going to look it up because it'll take too much time. But I want to say the homer was garbage time homer. Oh, it's right. Actually, I can find it right here. It's 10-6 game. It came in the 8th inning, and it was 7-4. Yeah. So, I mean, it wasn't high impact, but that was all he did. It's like, okay, well, this is not going well. We go to the LCS, and then you see Carrasco there goes 8 for 20 with a homer, 3 ribs. So 400, 478, 700. He ends up being the MVP of the LCS. That stunned everybody. None of us were expecting that. And he ended up being huge and said, you know what? I like this thing called success. Let me keep it up for the World Series. And he did well there with 2 homers, 6 ribbies, 318, 348, 591 for Carrasco in the World Series. So 2 amazing series for him. Totally snuffed out the ugly division series and, frankly, the ugly regular season performance that he had with us, where he only put up a 71 WRC+. But he has totally washed that away. He's coming in fresh next year, actually coming in on a high note even because of his playoff heroics. So good for Derry Carrasco, really making the trade feel a lot better. Of course, like I said, even with him not performing, we were still happy about the deal because of Gavin Stone. But seeing Carrasco get going means this can end up being a really big deal for us. And then, like I mentioned, Arias, Aurelvis, and Parker Meadows, you know, they didn't play much. 29 plate appearances between them, a couple hits, a homer from Aurelvis, 4 ribbies total between the trio, and poor Baez just hanging out. Hey, he gets a ring, so there you go. Wait, did he win with the Cubs? He won with the Cubs before, when they won it, right? So he has 2 rings. Anyway, moving over to the pitching for the playoffs. Let's sort by innings here. Gavin Stone, speaking of, like I said, this is why even before Carrasco got going, we weren't freaking out about the trade, saying like, oh man, the Watanabe trades are really killing us. We're not getting anything from it here in October, because Gavin Stone was a stud. 34 innings, most on the team by far. 23 2/3 is next highest, with a 1.85 ERA and an 0.65 WHIP. 23% strikeout minus walk, which is fantastic. Just excellence across the board for Gavin Stone. Yeah, he wrote a 195 BABIP. When you're dominating like that, you're probably going to be having an unsustainable mark here or there, and a 195 BABIP. While not sustainable, doesn't mean he didn't earn it. And I feel like sometimes those concepts are used interchangeably. And I do have a little bit of a problem with that in the baseball community, particularly in the fantasy baseball community, where it's like, I understand that you're trying to point out like, hey, don't bet on a 195 BABIP going forward. But it's not like it's always fluke or luck and it just happened to them. Sure, sometimes it is, right? They're giving up hard hit balls all over the place, but they're going right to gloves, so they're turning into outs. But you can have a lot of influence over toting a 195 BABIP for 34 innings because you're dominant. It's just that keeping that level of quality up for, you know, an entire season is remarkably difficult. So always be careful to delineate between unsustainable and lucky or unearned, because they are vastly different. A low BABIP isn't inherently lucky. Not all the time, depending on the sample size and everything. Tariq Skubal, like I said, 23 2/3, so 10 1/3 short of Stone. He had 2 fewer starts, so, you know, we got the most starts from Stone. But he was okay. 4.94 ERA, 1.35 WHIP. I think there was that one start where I pushed Skubal a little too far. I kind of spoiled his numbers a little bit. Yeah, the 5 earned runs against Tampa Bay, where I even remember that game, and I was like, I can't sit here and tell y'all that he pitched well with 5 earned in 6 2/3, but I didn't really feel bad about our decisions. Everything that was going on felt okay. Mason Hour got him for a 2-run shot, so did Royce Lewis. So it was really 2 at-bats that went sideways. He still gave up the runs, they count, but all in all, I felt pretty good with him. We got 2 excellent starts. I would still call this Tampa Bay one kind of mediocre. In fact, even the 46 game score underlines that for us, because you start at 50 with game score, and so a 46, while not good, is not wretched either. Now the 30 he had to open the playoffs, that was wretched. You can't have a 30 game score and that be a good start. There's just no way. Once you hit a certain threshold, basically under 45 for me, that's gonna be a bad start. So Skubal up and down, but mostly good for us. Aaron Ashby, he had 4 starts, 1 relief appearance during which he had a shutdown. And so that was good for 17 and a third with a 27% strikeout minus walk. That's our highest amongst the 4 guys with at least 15 innings. In fact, it's our second highest amongst the 8 guys with at least 10 innings. So a few qualifiers there, but just trying to let you know that is really, really good mark, 27% strikeout minus walk. Good for a 2.08 ERA. 133 whip is a little high, but he outran it. He had a 3.95 BABIP, and he didn't really let it hurt him very much. Aaron Ashby, very good during the playoffs. Jackson Jobe, 16 2/3, 1.08 ERA, 120 whip. Now, he was probably getting a bit lucky with things. Sequencing was going in his favor because only a 9% strikeout minus walk, which is not special, and a 239 BABIP likely being a major factor in why he was able to be successful with a sub 10% strikeout minus walk. So Jackson Jobe maybe skated a little bit in his 3 starts, or at least at points during them, but hey, we got the results. And, it looks like 3 brilliant starts. He worked around walks. That was the biggest issue. And some hits. He allowed 7 in that Cincinnati game. He was dodging raindrops there, which is a phrase I heard a long time ago that I really like about a guy who gives up a bunch of base runners, but, either goes scoreless or, maybe 1 run. Because 1 run on 11 base runners is definitely good fortune. You got to be, matrix leaning out of the way of that, or as the adage goes, like I said, dodging raindrops, which if you think about it is damn near impossible, which is why I think it's such a good phrase to conjure up when you're talking about that. Ronnie Enriquez, 12 innings for him, brilliant, 24% strikeout minus walk. He was wonderful out of the bullpen, did get 1 start as well. Reese Olson, strong out of the bullpen, 11 in the third with a 3.18 ERA. Only a 2% strikeout minus walk, so he was very dependent on his 257 BABIP. Adrian Morejon, only 6% strikeout minus walk, 3.27 ERA for him in 11 innings. So he was up and down, but mostly good, at least as far as the ERA. And hey, we can talk about the guys that didn't have very good skills that ended up putting up good ERAs and say like, okay, that would not be sustainable over a long period of time. But the period of time that we needed it to be sustainable over is done. It's October, October is done. We won the World Series. So, just because I'm not going to hammer every guy and be like, oh, well, he didn't really deserve a 3.18 ERA. Y'all know that, right? I don't need to tell you that a 2% strikeout minus walk from Reese Olson is dog shit, and he probably should have had a 5 ERA. We got lucky a little bit. You gotta. But hey, some of those guys were getting lucky when Elpidio Perez was putting up a 29% strikeout minus walk, but still giving up a 5.23 ERA. So it works both ways. He had 3 shutdowns, he had 3 meltdowns, and we remember them all. In fact, 2 earned runs in 3 of his last 4 outings, which was particularly frustrating. The last 2 against Cincy included 3 home runs, and that was tough. Thankfully, that didn't really cost us. Now, we lost both those games. It did cost us in those games, but thankfully it did not cost us the World Series, which it was very frustrating. Because, he just got clipped a few times with the long ball. It's just not something that we expect out of Elpidio. Although it was a season-long issue, so I wonder if the movement scouting needs to come down. Is he really a 60 movement? If we're looking at a 1.5 homer 9 in season, and then a, what would it have been during the playoffs here? 2.6. I don't know. And even if you look here, with the BABIP and the home run ratings, they're both 60. So if you're looking at the movement and saying, well, maybe he's, 45 home run and 85 BABIP. No, he's 60 on both. So he's had some home run bad luck. Emiliano Teodo, I kept him in the circle of trust for the most part, but after a while it got hard. This was another conflicting one though, where it's a 29% strikeout minus walk, but he's giving up bombs left and right. He has a 7.88 ERA. It's like, can we really trust him? I don't know, but I still look at his ratings. In a small sample, you have to remain convicted to the guys with the strong ratings, even in the face of a struggle. Now, not universally, everything's case by case, and I get it. If a guy just keeps getting beat up, you might start going to somebody else because it's just too much. But I felt like I still wanted to bring him in a lot of key spots because I see 70, 65, 45, and I'm still gonna rather lose with one of my higher rated guys than to try to get lucky with a lower rated guy, if that makes sense. So we'll see how he goes, with his next scouting update. He's only 25. He'll be 26 going into next season. Or, yeah, his birthday's on Valentine's Day, so it'll be his age 26 season. I intend to keep Teodo around, but it's not a guarantee. And maybe he has some trade value, and maybe he just doesn't work well here. I don't know. He's in a good morale state. So maybe things go his way next year, and he just really goes crazy, because 69% left on base rate, that's not very nice. 15% strikeout minus walk is pretty good, but maybe you could cut into the walk rate of 13%. I know 45 control says, hey, you can have some walk issues at times, but I still think he can beat 13%. So he's a bit of an enigma, because the ratings are better than Teodo's results have been for us so far. But I'll stick with him. Hey, we stuck with Carrasco and it worked. You stick with the guys with the good ratings over time, generally it's going to work. Dana Mosqueda, Abner Uribe, and Brant Herter all got 7 innings or under 7 innings, I should say, because it was 6 2/3 for Mosqueda, but he was awesome. 6 2/3 scoreless. 5 innings for Uribe. He got out of some big jams with his strikeout capability. He put himself into some jams as well with a 19% walk rate, but all in all, Uribe started getting it more in the circle of trust over Teodo as we got deeper into October. And then Brant Herter with his 3 2/3 with a 26% strikeout minus walk. His ratings were his results were really bad though. But he had a tiny sample, so giving up runs in 2 of his 3 outings, that's enough to sink him. So I wasn't really trusting Brant Herter a ton. And then we had the one series, I think it was the first one against Seattle, where the lefties didn't have a lot of lefties to go after. So Herter kind of got put in the back seat for that. Ashby was obviously in the rotation for most of it. So it was Moneon, Mosqueda, Perez. Perez was obviously the go-to guy. Mosqueda then next, then Moneon. So there wasn't a ton for Herter to do in that early series. Got better in Tampa Bay, and then we used him a couple times against Cincy. So that's the playoff rundown of everybody. Now let's do a regular season rundown, and we'll pick up the pace a little bit, because again, I am reading just a bunch of numbers, but just want to keep you guys up with how players are performing, especially as we move into the off season here and got to make some decisions about where we're going to go with everything. So looking at the full season stats and going by innings, we have Skubal with 224. He put up 5.5 wins, 5.4 to be exact. He was actually beat by Jackson Jobe, who put up 6 WAR, 5.9, rounded up to 6 with his 200 innings. So 24 fewer innings, he puts up the better R WAR here. We got R WAR and WAR without the little R in front of it. So they're 2 different ones. It's RA9 WAR and quote unquote regular WAR, I guess. It's the foundation of them is a bit different. That's why you can see the differences. So ERA, basically the R WAR is a bit more ERA based. This is a shorthand, but it's a bit more ERA based. So like the true results of what happened. Whereas the WAR is a bit more FIP based, which, I mean, it is based on real results, but it tries to give you an idea of what the ERA quote unquote should have been or could have looked like with those skills, if not for certain sequencing or good luck or bad luck. So yeah, that's what that's trying to do. And so you see some stark differences there, because Skubal had a 3.54 ERA, but a 4.43 FIP. Likely due to that 1.2 homer per 9 and a pretty modest K rate of 19%. So that's why Skubal's R WAR is quite a bit better than his regular WAR. Jobe has a tighter split there from 6 to 4. Still two wins, but he has a 3.67 FIP versus 3.14 ERA. So let's actually do all the guys who started first. Next up there would be Ronnie Enriquez, 31 starts for him, 132 2/3. Obviously, kind of a 4 or 5 inning guy. We don't really push him, but we take it. It's worth it. It's better than him being a 2 to 3 inning guy in the bullpen. We'll take our 4 to 5 as a starter and get a 2.85 ERA and a 1.09 WHIP. Now, I imagine that his record might be funny. Let's see what it is. Yeah, 7-4 in 31 starts on a really good team. is because he doesn't get a lot of decisions. Because if you only go 4 innings, you can only lose. You can't get a win. So that makes a lot of sense there. Funny enough, he was 7-4 out of the bullpen primarily last year, which, yeah, because you can probably snake some wins from whoever was in his spot. You know, the Enriquez of last year probably relented some wins there. So then we have Gavin Stone. Been talking a bunch about him. He had amazing playoff, but he had a strong regular season for us too. Now he was a swingman type, only relieved in Houston and was okay, and then was a hybrid with us. 13 starts, 16 relief appearances. All told, it was a 3.93 ERA, 106 WHIP, which is awesome. 19% strikeout minus walk, and we can see exactly how well he started for us because he only started for us. So we can isolate those numbers, and we find out that it's a 3.34 ERA, 102 WHIP as a starter with a 20% strikeout minus walk. That's fantastic. So we might have really hit on something here with Gavin Stone. I know I've mentioned it a ton. Even if Carrasco hadn't had a great playoff or doesn't really pan out next year, we still got a strong piece for Watanabe, even though Watanabe did go to Houston and really get back in his groove there. So we wish him the best. Then we have Reese Olson, another hybrid guy, 10 starts, 33 relief appearances, good for 100 innings, 100 and a third innings, I should say, to be precise. Solid 3.77 ERA, 135 whips, running a bit hot, but only a 7% walk rate. So that's more hits getting through, 9.4 hits per 9, that I'd like to see him kind of cut down. And again, I mentioned this during the playoffs too. What's up with our defense? It says it's good. So what's with all these huge BABIPs? Can these guys make a play on some things and help our pitchers out? Because I feel like, I mean, it says we're first in BABIP here in pitching for the regular season, but I don't know. It didn't feel like it, but maybe that's just because I'm remembering the guys who have the higher BABIPs, or there's also the fact that maybe BABIPs are just higher in our league right now than they are in real life. Let's take a look at the leaders real quick. Is it on this board here? I would imagine it is somewhere, I'm sure. Sure, I'll find it. If not, I know where to go. There's opponents. Oh, there's BABIP. So 258 led the league this year. And I gotta believe that that's gonna be like, I don't know, I'm spitballing, but I'm guessing like 15th in real life this year. I think BABIPs are a good bit lower in real life. Let me check my work on that. Okay, I'm full of shit. The best BABIP this year from a qualified starter, which means at least 162 innings pitched, was Corbin Burns for the 2023 Brewers with a 244. In third place was Blake Snell at 256, just 2 points behind or better than this Woodruff. So it is a little bit higher. Like, it's definitely higher. For example, the 264 of Javier would be 5th in our league, and it's second in our league, and it would be 5th. It was 5th in real life. So they're a little bit higher, but not that much. For some reason, I thought that there were a bunch of guys in like the 230s, maybe even some 220s, but I was out to lunch on that one. So it's not that bad. But anyway, we were apparently the best BABIP suppression team, which makes sense with our good defense. But I just feel like I see these BABIPs and I'm kind of uninspired. So I got to readjust my frame on that a little bit. All right, Brant Herter got 9 starts. 90 in the third innings total. He had 36 total appearances. So, 27 relief appearances for him. 4.78 ERA, 141 WHIP. He was up and down. You know, he wasn't great, if we're just being honest about it. We need him to be better. And I would have thought with the great defense that he's somebody who could benefit because he only has 50 stuff, but 65 movement and control. And he had a 318 BABIP, actually one of our worst. So I don't know. I think he'll probably stick around. He's still, he's going into ARB for the first year. And the estimate right here is 2.3 mil. That's not terrible, but with our ability to cultivate relievers and kind of pluck them off the waivers or the Rule 5, even something like 2.3 mil, which is far from an egregious price, might be a little more than we want to pay. That money's probably, pardon me as I put on chapstick, that money's probably just better spent elsewhere. It's not that it's a bad price. And if you're not as interested in going out and finding relievers and playing that end of the game, then don't feel bad about paying 2.3 mil for a solid reliever, even somebody coming off of a modest season, because his skills are still pretty good. But I think generally, if you fancy yourself good at finding relievers, then either pay for like a premium one as like a luxury item, which I've been known to do sometimes. We have a little free agent capital left. There's Edwin Diaz lingering. I mentioned him because he was such a big prominent piece of our Expos series, and he was originally picked up as a pure luxury item. We had gotten an extra boost of money when the offseason kicked over, or when it went to the preseason kickover in late January, and Diaz was still out there. We kind of gave him a lowball offer. He took it, and what a run he started with us in Montreal in that sim last year. That was incredible. But anyway, either I'm going to buy somebody that's at that top end, which I know sounds a little counterintuitive. It's like, well, wait, if you cultivate relief all that well, why would you ever pay for top end? It's like, well, if it's top of the scale at a fair price, I should also add. Edwin Diaz was like 12 mil, and he was like an 85 rated player on the 20 to 80 scale. My man was breaking the scale and coming to us for like 11, 12 mil. I mean, that made sense. But that's also not going to happen often. So more often than not, I'm going to be playing it very cheap with the bullpen. Getting to the rest of the relievers, Modion had one start, so technically he counts here. I said let's start with the guys who got starts this year. 77 innings. It was 52 relief appearances. That was the bulk of his work. 4.09 ERA, 117 WHIP, 21% strikeout minus walk is really good. I would have expected better from him, except he always has that home run problem. 45 movement led to a 1.6 homer 9, which kind of undercut him. And you can see that very clearly here. This ERA WHIP split for these ratings makes a lot of sense. Like a 117 WHIP is very good, or solid. It's quite good. It's a little bit semantics to be like, oh, it's not very good, it's quite good, as if like, what the fuck's the difference there? I don't want to overstate it. It's good. It's not elite, but it's good. Normally, it would generate better than a 4.09 ERA. If you're thinking, you're looking at a 21% strikeout minus walk, I tell you it's a 117 WHIP, you say, oh, that ERA is going to be like low to mid threes. But the missing ingredient there, of course, is the home run rate being sky high at 1.6, and that's how you get a 4.09 ERA despite sparkling strikeout minus walk and a good WHIP. So Modion, I will continue to stick with him. I still really like him. He can also start, but he's going to be a free agent. Now, he was $4 million this year. I will pay $4 million for somebody like that, because if you have starter potential, that's another reason to possibly pay for somebody. And that goes back to Herder too, because he's 50 stamina. He can start, which does make him even more valuable at that 2.3 million mark. Again, I want to be clear here too. If we don't bring Herder back, it's because we traded him. We're not going to non-tender him no matter what. You either hold or you trade. I would not want to lead anybody to non-tendering somebody at 2.3 million just because you can find good relievers cheaply. So I want to underscore that in case I might have misled somebody. All right, now let's get into our peer relievers. These are the guys that only relieved, and we'll go by innings there, and we'll talk about Teodo again real quick, because I mean, unfortunately, it's more of the same, not to the same degree, but it's disappointment. Great ratings, and MLB best 77 games pitched, 104 2/3 innings, but a 4.21 ERA and a 1.36 WHIP. Now, I do wonder a little bit if maybe I overexerted him, and maybe he just, that's part of why he wasn't pitching well. But we do this a lot. We have triple-digit relievers pretty consistently, and they've been great before. I think things just didn't quite go his way. Maybe it's a 45 control that just, when you're at that threshold, that's kind of the mark. 45 is the mark. That doesn't mean that every time you pitch, you're just a 45. The way I think about it is like, okay, there's always a range of outcomes. When you're a 45 control, sure, there's going to be some days where you pitch like you're a 60 control. Because even a guy with no control, like Dylan Cease, is going to have days where he walks 1, strikes out 12, and has a brilliant outing. Same with relievers, because they're only pitching 1 inning. So there's going to be times where they string together 7, 8, 9, 10 appearances with 1, 2, maybe even sometimes 0 walks. But when you talk about a range of outcomes for a 45 control, he's going to live in the 30 to 40 control guy way more often. And that's what we saw this year, 13% walk rate. It was 15% last year with the Red Sox. He never really kind of hits that upper register all that often. And that's kind of the problem here with Teodo. But he's supposed to be able to snuff that out with 70 stuff, 65 movement, because this is a pretty standard issue profile for a premium reliever. It just seems that his control seems to hamper him a bit more than some of the other top tier guys that have such excellent stuff and excellent movement. But again, the bottom line is I intend to continue to stick with him. He is not yet arbitration eligible, so he's going to be $810,000 next year, and you better believe that he's not going anywhere unless he's part of a huge deal where we get something back that's massive. I have no intention of taking him out of even a featured role too. Maybe he won't be the stopper to start the season, but then he'll be in middle relief, used more often with high leverage. I'm not giving up on Teodo. Elpidio Perez also had his bouts of disappointment for as good as he is, and his are even more pointed because he's 75, 60, 55. He's amazing, or supposed to be at least. And so that's a little bit frustrating that he had what are kind of modest rates for what should be a stud reliever. 3.73 ERA, 1.24 whip. I was kind of hoping for better, especially from a 23% strikeout minus walk in 91 2/3 innings. So, same rigmarole here though. He is ARB eligible, but he's not going anywhere. I remain committed to him unless it's part of a trade where we really get something nice coming back. I intend to stick with Elpidio Perez and maybe try the starters gambit again. We tried it for 7 starts back in 2025. Didn't really come to fruition, but he had an excellent season overall. 289, 103. I think we can get back to that, even if it's only as a stopper. And I say only, but only because, starting is better than relieving. But I will take a near triple-digit inning stopper version of Perez for sure. And then we had, let's see here, Uribe and Mosqueda are the only other two. Mosqueda only got 10 2/3 in the regular season, but he was excellent. He came up for September call-ups and he cooked. 0.84 ERA, 0.94 whip. It's a tiny sample, but he did have a 24% strikeout minus walk, and he was just altogether excellent. Abner Uribe is one of the special stories of the year. Took a gamble with him, it paid off. We put him on the 40, literally our last 40 guy. I maybe even had to knock somebody off to get him because he was going to be Rule 5 eligible, and I said, you know what? Let's just do the old, this is a live arm, who can throw 100 plus, 80 stuff. Can we do something with it? Work your magic, coaches. They did. It came through. March 2026 scouting report, stuff and movement go up. He added a screwball, and it was, it was a game changer. We knew that all of a sudden now we might have something here. Still only had 30 control, which is very bad, of course. But I liked that he had gotten that extra stuff and movement with the extra pitch. Now, he didn't need it. He had 3 pitches. In fact, a screwball at 45 is probably not that different than having a changeup at 45, but it's an extra pitch. It increases your margin for error, even though he's probably mostly fastball, curveball. But I was excited, and he delivered. 2.58 ERA. It was a 136 whip. You're just going to have a high whip when you're walking 12% and you're toting a 30 control. But he damn near never allowed homers at 0.5 homer 9 and ended up with a good season that carried over into some quality bullpen work for the playoffs. And Abner Uribe now looks like he's a piece of this future. And he's still going to be league minimum again next year. Now, I will say, he is definitely a candidate to possibly be traded because he's really cheap, and I do think he'll be appealing for other teams. He's only 30 control and 30 stamina, so there is a pretty hard ceiling on him. If he were to get 5 more of either, though, let alone both, oh my God, that'd be amazing. But give me either 35 control or 35 stamina, and I really think that opens up what he could do even more. So that's the bullpen, or that's the whole rotation, in fact. Let's go back to the hitters and talk about their regular seasons. All right, and I'll just sort by WAR here, and this one will be really quick because we did do a big rundown of the hitters in a previous episode, I think right before the playoffs. But we just got to give some guys their flowers again. 6 wins for Adames. I round up, so 5.8, we'll just call it. I'm not even going to tell you. I'm going to just do all the roundings for all of them. 6 wins for Adames, and that's why it's a lot easier to kind of overlook his October struggles because, hey, we're not the team that we were without him in the regular season. He had a rotten month. It came on the biggest stage, but he's not a bum. He's not some clown that we're trying to get rid of. It stinks, but you know what? The team picked him up. 138 WRC plus, great defense at short, 31 homers, 95 ribs, great year for Adames. 5 wins for Green, 2186 on the homers and ribs, 135 WRC plus for him. Just an excellent season from Green. Pretty much a carbon copy the last 3 years, 4.8, 4.9, 4.8. You'll love it. A metronome. Mendoza, I mentioned how he's one of the breakouts of the year for us, probably just in the entire league, not just for us. 5-win season with a 120 WRC plus, strong outfield defense there in center and left, because Parker Meadows got some time obviously in center as well. So there's 46 games in left for Mendoza. What a year. What an absolutely excellent year for him. He's not a big arm guy, 45 arm, but he covers tons of ground for us and did very, very well. I love the offensive breakout. A 330 BABIP played a big role here. Can he repeat that? I don't know. But he's a gap god with some pop, a little bit of eye. I do still worry about that lurking 40 control. Maybe he can, or control, contact, I should say. He's got 45 potential. Man, I wish he could get that extra 5 there. That'd be really helpful. But he does have the high work ethic. He's a spark plug, so maybe there's a bit more development here. I expect to come down next year, but I would take a solid 3-win type of guy as well from Sergio Mendoza. 4-win campaign for Torque. Already mentioned that he was a beast in the regular season. 46, 112. The 46 homers led the league. The 112 ribbies. Let's see if that was anywhere in the top 3. Go to the standings. Home runs. Where's ribbies? Nope. Oh, yeah, nowhere near, actually. So, okay. I guess we just didn't have enough runners on for him to, because 138 was the high, 128, and then 123. Those are the top 3 that we can see on the leaderboard there. So 112 still good, but not near the top end there for Torque. 4-win season for O'Neal Cruz, another guy that gets a pass for the playoffs because he was instrumental during the regular season. 24 homers, 79 ribs, 120 WRC plus, good for 4 wins. Thank you, O'Neal Cruz. And then Evan Carter, 3-win season for him. I'm not going to reiterate everything I just said about the walk rate stuff. I wish it was better. 342 OBP is not bad. Let's be clear. That's not bad. But I'm expecting minimum double digit, minimum 10% walk rate from him. And it was 8.2. So we'll see if he improves. He's still just 24 years old. There's not a ton of improvement, at least to the power. There is 10 more contact and 10 more avoid K potentially. So he can still round into a really strong hitter, even if there's not a bunch of power to go with it. And if he's walking at 12, 13% rate, that's going to give him a really great foundation to build on. So I still love Evan Carter for his potential development with us. Parker Meadows put up 1.1 WAR. He was not in a part-time role. He didn't really play much in the playoffs, but that was because we were going with the offense for Mendoza, Green, and Carter. But he put up, 372 plate appearances of 1 win, and that was mostly driven by his defense because Parker Meadows had a 76 WRC plus, and that's fine. That's always going to be in the range of outcomes. That's more or less who he's been. He spiked a 90 WRC plus back in 2024, and hey, that was great, but it's not the expectation. He's a brilliant backup defender, perfect 4th outfielder. And then 0.9, we'll call it 1. Like I said, I'm going to do the rounding. 1 win from Dingler, 54 WRC plus with his hitting. Obviously, that's dog shit. He was at 97 the year before. Oh, wait, no, sorry. The 97 was his 9 games in Toledo. It was 85 the year before, which, of course, is still exponentially better than what he did for us. And that was a 2.5 win season. So I'm not too worried about it. You guys know with catchers, I'll take anything they can give us from the dish, not behind the dish. I'll take anything they give us at the dish as long as they're excellent behind the dish. That's the way I wanted to say that. So Dingler, I'm not, let's go double negative. I know it's incorrect grammar, but I'm not looking for a catcher. Okay? We can upgrade, I think. And that could be a big move that we do if there's a big free agent, if there's a big trade potential. That could be an avenue. I like having Dingler around because he's an original Tiger. and I like to keep some around. But, Green and Torkelson are going to be the foundation. Skubal and Job aren't going anywhere. Like, we got 4, and Reese Olson, I think, is going to be a big part of this. We got 5, like, real Tigers that we're building around. I didn't just turn over the team, get rid of every Tiger, and we got a bunch of guys from collected around the league. Jace Young's an original Tiger, Parker Meadows, and that's about it. So it's not a ton, but we have a core that is real Tigers. And so I want to continue to keep those guys around as long as I can. Obviously, depending how far we go into this, eventually there'll be none. But as it stands right now, and I guess I should mention Baez, he is an original Tiger, or at least original to when we started this sim. That's what I'm talking about here. So anyway, the rest of the guys here, Arelvis, half win, 95 WRC plus as a bench bat who played some, 12 homers. That's nice off the bench. Jace Young would probably be what we would consider kind of the polar opposite of Sergio Mendoza. The big surprise breakout of Mendoza was tamped down a little bit by the major flop bust season of Jace Young, because he was Mendoza last year, putting up 4 wins. So is that in the cards for Mendoza this year? Kind of, yes. At least offensively, he could crater. But I think with Mendoza, his defense is so strong and he plays center field that from a WAR standpoint, I would be surprised if he wound up with just 0.2 WAR the way Jace Young did this year. But it was disappointing. I mean, he is kind of a bland bat, and even when he was dominating last year, while I was super excited about it, it was hard to say like, oh, this is a unquestioned cornerstone for us. No, it was like a solid league average player playing some of his best ball for 440 plate appearances. And that's okay. We take that. Dury Carrasco, we've talked a ton about him. Dog shit regular season, brilliant playoff, and going to be a big part of this team going forward with that 70 I, 55 avoid K. I want to see him, ideally near the top of our lineup next year, getting on base a ton. He and Carter could be table setters for us, or they could be a really interesting 5-6 type, or even 6-7, where they kind of set the second half of the lineup and kind of keep the line going a bunch there by getting on base a crap ton. If we keep Green, Torque, Mendoza up at the top there, maybe there's something like that. So we'll see how that goes. And then Baez got 25 plate appearances all year. Was not good. Pablo Aliendo, 202 plate appearances, 68 WRC plus, minus 0.1 WAR. And then Gabriel Arias as our utility fielder, minus 0.2 WAR. He had a 43 WRC plus. Let's see if his defense was any good as I take a drink here. Excuse me. So he mostly played at second base, and he wasn't too bad defensively. Not great at short. Knocked around a little bit at first as well. So, he fulfilled his role. A bench glove like that needs to be flexible, play all around. Maybe he gets a little bit better bat luck next year. I mean, a 222 BABIP is pretty rotten, and that's really going to suppress a 143 plate appearance sample. I still think he's pretty good, and you can make a case right now, like actually a pretty easy case, that he should be starting over Jace Young, because his defense is better and the bats aren't that different. So Arias, I still have some excitement about, if I'm being quite honest. Because if you look at him as a starter, with that defense, the bat might only be like an 85, 90 WRC plus, but if it comes with a plus glove, we'll take it. So there's the team. They did great. And we're coming up around 50 minutes, so let's spend another maybe 20 or so kind of getting the lay of the land for the offseason. So I think that will require that we hit the advancement here. I want to see if we're losing anybody. So this is 2026 season. We re-signed Jingbo. I think we took care of everyone, because I see these 4 re-signings here, and that tells me that we went through this already, which we did, so we're golden. And now we are in November. Let's do our second scout. Let's lock these guys in here again. I wish there was like, if you hit the word lock, it would do all of them at once, but maybe I could ask about adding that, since it is a new feature, and maybe it's something that they could see like a lock all type of thing. Let's run that practice. I don't really get into these players until like December or even January, because right now we're just scouting them. I just put the best ones in there, and we do 20, so you can even get some of the lower ones, some of the gambles. So we'll dive deeper into that in a later episode. All right, so now I think we are ready to go ahead and advance. we'll get our offseason score together. Sorry, y'all, I'm a little stuffed up. I don't mean to be, having kind of runny nose in y'all's ears like that. There, I muted and did a big inhale to help. Stupid weather giving me a runny nose. What am I, a toddler? All right, we are, this is a big, it's game-saving one. Congratulations, you won it all. You and all your players joined the Immortals in Major League Baseball champions. Well done, Curtis. Curtis Granderson, our manager, of course. Look at him atop our ball club there. There you go. You'll love to see it. Now, I do like this thing with the little boxes of all the players. I do wish there was a way to get it all on one screen more easily, though. And I wonder if there'd be an opportunity to use some of this open space a bit better. Maybe put the trophy over here. You can even make it a bit bigger, but put it over here. And then you can do kind of 3 columns of the guys. Then they're all on, so you can do the one-shot screenshot. Shosei Watanabe, I think we're giving him a ring, y'all. I think he does get a ring, so that's interesting. Kevin Alcantara, also with Houston. We don't talk about him in that trade, by the way, and that's kind of unfair because, he and Madden need to be considered because we talk about how Gavin Stone has helped our end of it. Well, we can't ignore the fact that they got Kevin Alcantara and Ty Madden. Now, Alcantara was a solid league average guy for them, which I knew he could be. That's what he is. He's fine. You got to give to get type of deal. But he only puts up a 45 I, 40 avoid K. So we were moving those plate skills with that trade. That was a concerted effort to improve plate skills. That's why he was part of it. Ty Madden was tough to give up. He's an original Tiger and a Longhorn. And he put up a 3.21 ERA and a 1.24 whip for them in 81 innings. Now, his ratings aren't great, so it seems like he was kind of getting the best of what he can do. I would think that that's kind of an upside outcome there. But hey, good for him. He's back home in Texas and, doing all right with Houston. But we got what we needed from Carrasco in the playoffs, and we got what we needed from Stone throughout the entire year. So I'm looking at this right now as a win-win. One last check-in on what Watanabe ended up at. 201 plate appearances of a 133 WRC plus. So, I think I even said it in the video when we were training. I was like, don't be surprised if he just goes to Houston and dominates. Of course that was in the cards. He wasn't even terrible for us. 94 WRC plus is not that far from, just kind of having a hot streak and raising your numbers. Now, 133, quite a bit different, but he could have easily had a nice hot streak for us in the summer. I wanted to make a move, and the money was a big part of it too. And oh my goodness, so he opted out, but then that means he's only ARB eligible. Wait, so I get confused on these sometimes. So when you give an opt out to a guy that hasn't expired his original team control, then he just moves to the ARB window. Okay, that's interesting. I might be even more inclined to offer those opt-outs then. That's almost like a little cheat code then, if you're not actually losing them, right? Yeah, because he would have the more years here, but since it has the little A, that means those are ARB. That's kind of sneaky now that I think about it. But anyway, let's get to our emails. Actually, this jogs my memory to check our market and everything. Or actually, maybe there's an email about it. So before I look at that, let's go here. Oh no, don't crash on me. Please don't. Thank you. And it did. Fan loyalty increases. And we moved to above average. Okay, about damn time. It should match the real life Tiger. I won't go on the diatribe again, but real life Tigers fans know what's up. All right, we do have an option decision here on Willy Adames. Team option for 13 mil. Again, there's no way we don't take this. He's coming off a 6-win season. Hell, even if he only gives us the 2.3 WAR of 2025, that is worth 13 mil as a starting shortstop. There's literally no way we don't take this. Let's go ahead and execute. And then our loyalty increases, new budget. You will have 228 million with 150 for payroll. Okay, let's see what that looks like right away. So off rip, it says we got 23 available, 23 million. Okay, that's not bad. That's definitely something. And listen, you win the World Series, I think you're allowed to raise prices. So we're gonna put up a little jump. We're gonna go to 28.28. We're gonna move it up a bit from 26.83. So what's that? What's that end up as? Is that a 5% jump? Yeah, 5.4% jump. It's not insignificant, but I don't think it's egregious. Hopefully the fans see it that way, that like, okay, that's fair. And we're going to continue to put money into the team. So hopefully they see that it's worth supporting. All right, review of the season goals. We're amazing. Oh, okay. He thinks Aurelvis Martinez fulfills our power hitter goal, although it's only yellow and it's not due until next year. So I think he's more like, okay, if that's what you do, that's not horrendous, but maybe better than that, which fair. I tend to agree there that it could be better than just Aurelvis Martinez for acquiring a power hitter. Increased profit. Yeah, shut up. It's only because we won. But hey, if it keeps him happy, fine. Still wants us to build a better farm. I agree. Fan engagement is bottom out. What do you plan to do about that? Suck my ass and shut the hell up, you stupid idiot. In the international field, the harvest is plentiful. Where have you been? It takes time, idiot. Shut up, Chris. You dork. Imagine me calling somebody else a dork. Oh no, Detroit Tigers staff member retires. Bo Jackson retired. Well, he went out on top. He's an absolute legend. He regaled us with many stories of his baseball, football prowess. 63 years old, gonna retire to Alabama. I believe he's a big outdoorsman in real life, so that's what he's gonna go do, and I get it. But he was excellent for us. 4 seasons with us, 1 dud, but then 3 good ones. Made the playoffs in all 3, won a World Series. So, okay, Bo. I liked having the Jackson combo, though, with Nick and Bo. So that's kind of a bummer, but we wish him the best. And then a Whitecaps member retires, Junior Vizcaíno. Let's look him up. Now, I don't know why the name isn't just clickable here. Why do I have to type it? That's kind of annoying to me. Because we know it can be done. There's stuff that links all the time in the emails. Ah, shit, he's a monster. 61 years old with excellent development, legendary mechanics, outstanding aging, and legendary teaching hitting. That is a loss, y'all. That's a tough one. All right, but that's it. Just those 2 are retiring, so that's all we have to do for the personnel. Let's see who's available currently. All right, we got some guys here. We got some legendary. Oh, here we go. Kirk Mendenhall. We got a legendary at teaching hitting with legendary development, outstanding mechanics, and excellent for aging, which is fine. That doesn't need to be that good because he's going to be in the low minors, right? You're not going to have a bunch of older guys that you're trying to get the best out of. So for the low minors guys, I definitely favor the development and the mechanics way more than the aging. In fact, I don't even really give a shit about the aging one because I don't believe it to have any effect in the low minors unless you're putting some of the old guys down there, which sometimes is a strategy to kind of keep those teams from completely bottoming out. But like, you're not going to put any 28, 29-year-old that's going to be willing to go all the way down to high A is almost no chance that he's going to be good enough that you could develop him into somebody that you would want to use in the majors anyway. So bottom line, don't get caught up on vet. It says vet here, but that's, handling veterans. It's the handles aging. Don't worry about that for your low minors guys. So Kirk Mendenhall, let's try to sign him to a 5-year. And I'll give him the 110. I think that's fine. And then for the first base coach, hang on, what was Bo teaching? So he was teaching catching, but Nick Jackson can do that legendarily. A-Rod comes into the mix here for teaching the infield. And then we'll take, all right, so here's what we want. We want somebody who can teach outfield very well because A-Rod can be a legendary infield. Nick Jackson's legendary at catching. And if we can find somebody who's legendary at outfield and running, that's our guy. Because then we don't even have to have Nick Jackson teaching running. But if we only have outstanding for that, that's fine. And if we only have outstanding for the outfield, that's also fine. But we got to get 4 blue, right? There's no reason not to. So what are we looking for in terms of personality here? Somebody who works well with personable would make a lot of sense. Because we actually have 2 people who don't like personable, our assistant GM and our scouting director. And as I've stated before, I don't believe that those have as much of an impact on your staff cohesion because they're not on the field every day. But it is funny that they hate everybody that they've hired. All right, so let's see here. We're looking for Ari Adut. A-D-U-T. This is probably our guy here. And is positive with personable, and he himself is personable. That's our guy for sure. Are you kidding me? And his relationships are good? Oh, come on. That's a win. Ari, come on down, my man. Let's get you for 5. And you know what? I'm going to give you a little extra. I'm going to go 169 just so that we lock you in. All right, we got those 2 guys. Well, we'll see. We got 2 offers out. Prospect list. Ethan Murray, the number 1 prospect in baseball. He's the former, he was traded, hang on. Former number 1 overall pick. I thought so, but I was not confident, so I had to check. By the Nats from 2024, and then traded over to the Cardinals with Juan Abreu. What the fuck? Who's also awesome for Yaisel Ramos. Oh, we looked at this deal. I'm pretty sure. Because, yeah, there's a lot of talent floating around in this deal. But I still don't really know what the hell the Nats were doing. Because Yaisel Ramos is not bad. And OSA seems to have more love for him than our scouts. So maybe he's that good. But even still, how does he net both of those guys? And not just one or the other. So Juan Abreu, this trade was done December 2025. So since December 2025, like he was already good. The scouting hasn't even really gone up. In fact, it's come down a bit for Juan Abreu. Okay, so he didn't just pop off with St. Louis. Ethan Murray, December 2025. He'd already hit his big jump in August 2025. He got a little jump in 2026, but he was already a god too. So what the hell is this deal? Now, he does have a low work ethic here. And, you know, he's smart, greedy, doesn't adapt well, and doesn't work hard. So he's like too smart and too good for his own good. Like he has too much talent for his own good, but he doesn't realize, okay, as you move up the levels, you're still going to have to work hard because everyone else has the same kind of talent that you do, right? That's sometimes a rude awakening for players. They were the best everywhere. Then they get to the level where everyone else was too. And it's like, oh, you mean I have to work hard to keep up with the Joneses at this point? My natural talent alone won't do it? Could be tough for Ethan Murray. I still think the Cardinals heisted him on this deal, and he's the number 1 prospect. We still don't have a top 10 guy, unfortunately. Maybe one day. But hey, we're the World Series champs. Let's not cry and carry on too much. I remember Jakonski from the draft. He was the number 2 overall pick. And then Colt Cross, because I made a joke that he was related to Gavin Cross. He was the number 7 overall pick, and he's the number 7 prospect. How fitting. But all right, let's see where we stand. And, oh boy, we're terrible, y'all. We're the 2nd worst. Shigoya's our only top 100 guy. Damn. We're putting so much money into it. We got all these great coaches. I don't know what the hell's going on, y'all. Maybe I suck at drafting. You know? I don't know. This has been a tough one. We're really not moving the farm system in the direction I'd like. It's getting frustrating. We do have 3 in the next 100, but that's not good enough. Sean Gamble is out of the 100. That's frustrating. And Conrad Kaysen is number 40. So that was a little challenge trade that we did. I don't know. We'll see. Now, all of our top guys here, the 4 who rank in the top 200, actually, and then the next 4 guys after them. So our top 8, they're babies. There's only 1 guy who's in high 8. The rest are in rookie or in the complex still, which means there's time. And they could improve and they could really develop into something special. But right now, they are decidedly not. And that is frustrating. So we'll see how it goes. But as it stands right now, we have a dog shit system. The offseason begins. Arbitration. Let's see what arbitration's looking like at a glance. All right. Decent number of guys, including some big money to be spent here. Riley Green ready to get paid. He's looking for like just over 2x of his $7 million price tag last year. Totally fair. He deserves it. Almost 9 mil for Torque. Just under 7 mil for Job. Just under 4 mil for Enriquez. So we're going to put some money into this arbitration period for sure. I can tell you Jason DeLay is not going to get paid 1.6 mil. He's not even on our team. Alex Lang. Is he still hurt? Yeah, he's still got 5 weeks to return. You know, I'll see what he looks like. Oh, actually, no, 5 weeks. These are due before then. All right, we'll try to get a new scout, and we'll see if he's still 60, 60, 45. I got to be honest, it's not looking good for him even at 2 mil flat. Or not flat, close, 2.04 mil. Yeah, and it just goes back to the point I said about spending money on relievers. So yeah, there's some guys here that we'll definitely consider moving on from via trade or even non-tendering. And then Skubal is a pending free agent. We got to decide what we want to do with him. Now, he's coming off of back-to-back seasons where he tied for the league lead in games started, 36 and 35 respectively. 33 the year before that. He's increased his innings total each of those years from 175 up to 224. That big strikeout rate fall this year was a bummer, down to 19%. Well, it wasn't big. He was at 21 the year before. It's only 2 points, but it's dipping under 20 there is a little jarring. I don't know, man. I wonder what he wants. Like, it's not a crazy price. In fact, it does give us some guidance here on not offering him the qualifying offer because he wants 17, 19, then an opt-out, then 4 for 19, and then another 17 at the end. So all told, he's looking for a 7-year, $129 million deal. It's not terrible. I can't envision that we would go that long. Really think it'd be more of a 3-4 year situation. And I'm going to have to think on that. And I'll be curious your thoughts on it too. Morion, obviously we're not going to re-sign him. I say obviously, what does he want? I should at least look. Oh, he wants 4.4. Small raise over last year. We're still not. That doesn't change the answer, but he's asking very reasonably. Bottom line is we're not doing any qualifying offers, that's for sure. And then we got a lot of minor leaguers I need to get into, which I will definitely handle offline. Bringing these guys back, and we'll see how that goes. So yeah, we got our work cut out for us. Can we get an idea of what the free agents are going to be looking like? All right, Kevin Gausman, Paul Goldschmidt. So a couple older guys. Jazz Chisholm at age 28. Now he's an outfielder by trade at this juncture and pretty good in the outfield defensively. Don't really see any reason to move him back to the infield. As such, he doesn't really look like a fit for us. He's also 2 to 3 months out from fixing his broken bone in his elbow. So that's just another reason that, like, I'm not too keen on him. I couldn't see us really going for him. Tim Anderson over at shortstop, 33 years old. I mean, he's still playing good defense. That's why he put up a 4-win season, but it's like a league average bat with poor plate skills. I hate me a 4% walk rate. So, nope, don't really see him. Sandy Alcantara. He's been okay. I mean, he's been an innings eater. 4.77 ERA last year. It's not that good. Dylan Cease. 4.19 ERA, 1.29 whip. He's a 60, 50, 45. Probably going to want way more than I'm willing to pay for such a profile. I'd rather probably just keep Skubal. Randy Arozarena. We just don't really need outfield is the tough part. Jeff McNeil. Still mad at him for that massive 3-run homer that he hit against us. Trevor Story. And then there's Skubal. Garrett Stubbs is the top catcher. He's a 55 ability, so not really what we're looking for. He's coming off a 3-win season. He planned his free agency perfectly because he's coming off a pretty fine season for him. Any other catchers? Ray Singer, Danny Jansen. Wasn't he just a free agent? He signed like a 1-year make good. Well, he did make good, 3.4 WAR. 60 ability. He's a captain, so that's better, but I don't know. I'll be curious what he wants. I'll at least check in on Dan Jan. But I'm thinking a trade if we address this catcher situation in more of a substantive, kind of maybe just shy of blockbuster, whatever you would call that second level. But something to that degree is what I'm thinking more of. In fact, the trade market's probably where we're going to make big moves if we're going to make them, because nothing really looked all that appealing on the free agent market. Now, the trade block is not great in the offseason. You got to go out and search for your trades. You don't really have a lot of great guys out there, but we will investigate on that and see what's up. So we'll go ahead and wrap it here, just over an hour. Not too bad. It ended up being a little longer than I wanted, but just want to give a rundown. Like I said, I missed this episode last season, and I've gotten feedback that people do like the rundown episodes where we just kind of review the year. So hopefully you enjoyed this one. We'll be back. We'll start making some moves on the offseason. We'll get to the awards. We'll get through arbitration. Free agency will have started. I think the latest I would be, I think, okay, don't hold me to this because I've been known to lie in the offseason, but I think the latest will be is at the Rule 5. And I think that's a good point. Maybe we'll just stop at free agents filing and then pick back up episode 31 from there. But at the most, I'll go into the Rule 5 and let you know what we've done so far, if there's been any trades, go over the awards, and go from there. But until then, thank you all so much for watching. Have a great holiday season. Merry Christmas if you celebrate. Happy Hanukkah. Every other holiday, Kwanzaa is another one. Happy Kwanzaa. If there's others, but have fun time. If you've got friends, family, enjoy the time with them. And I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.